Hey there. Today I'll be speaking to one of the first people I met also. We go way back in the CNFT community. It's Alex from NFT CRAZE, and him and his team are the developers behind everything in the backend and the website. So I really appreciate having this conversation, him giving me the time. Me and him can go on for hours and not even flinch. We wouldn't even know it. Enjoy the talk and see you on the next one. Okay, how are we today?
Good, thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, bright and early on your side.
Yeah, there's a lamp because it's winter here. There's not so much light outside, so I have to compensate.
So, just so people know, this is pre-recorded. We are putting it, it is the 9th of January. So maybe some of the things we talk about either happened or you're talking about things that happened, but in reality, when people watch it, it already happened. It's not live streaming. So, Alex, we've known each other pretty much from the beginning of my journey.
That was pretty much close to the beginning of my journey with NFTs as well, because I think we both kind of started exactly when NFTs started becoming a thing on Cardano. So I
Yes.
think it was within the first month or two, probably
Yes.
shortly after the pretty much SpaceBud's launch and
Yeah.
like all the
I
other.
was brought in by someone that worked on SpaceBuds, but because he was like, "Oh,
Oh,
you're in the blockchain." Yes. Yes. So I still thank him all the time because honestly, this is the best community we could ask for on the blockchain. So what brought you to Cardano? Well, wait. First, introduce people. Tell people who you are, what you're all about, and a little bit of your background if you feel comfortable sharing, and then we can go on and talk about why you're here, what you've been doing with Cardano, etc.
Okay. So my name is Alex Dacuyo. I have a background mainly in engineering, although I shortly moved to computer science afterwards. So basically more programming stuff. I've been working for a good amount of time as a contractor, basically just working within different companies in the financial sector mainly. So some
Okay.
of them are bigger names, either in the UK sector or internationally, something like Tesco Bank, Virgin Money, American Express, and other
Okay.
similar places. And basically, I was quite early on keen on investing. It was a bit hard at the beginning because obviously at the beginning of my career, I was not having a lot of disposable income to put into investing. And I'm not sure about other countries. US is definitely better with this, but in countries like UK, most of the services that allow you to invest also take a charge of like £15 or something like that per transaction. And if
What?
you, yeah, and basically every single share, not every single share, but every single company in which you buy shares is seen as a transaction. So you cannot bundle them to say I buy from 5 companies and I pay only £13. If you buy shares from 5 companies, you pay
5
13.
times 13.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
So it's quite a difficult barrier to entry.
yes, it was. I mean, as I researched more, I found better ways to do it, which kind of avoid those, mostly with cheaper companies like global companies like Vanguard, and basically going into funds instead of shares, which often tend to have no entry price. But anyways, at the beginning, not knowing much of what I was doing, obviously I started the idea of I'm gonna pick stocks. I'm not gonna go with funds because I know better than that with all my life experience. Yeah, it didn't go poorly, but didn't go well either. um,
Okay.
anyways, that put me off for a while, but once I started increasing a bit my disposable income as well, like a few years later, I started looking again into investments. did a bit of like same thing, stocks and funds. And then, I don't know, I just had a friend that randomly started talking about crypto. It was after I think it was 2020 bull run. So it was still in the winter, basically crypto winter, when that
Okay.
person was speaking. And I was like, that might not be such a bad idea to research a bit. And that person mentioned exactly Cardano. Like, this was the only one he was looking into at the moment. Unfortunately for him, he actually didn't pull the trigger on it, but it gave me the idea for me to look into it. And the more I looked into it, I also really liked the idea of the academic research done,
Yes.
which is basically how it's being developed. I
Yes.
didn't mention previously, but actually, before I ended up doing the computer science, I've also been doing temporarily some research on nanotransistors within the
Okay.
university. So I was a bit
But
accustomed with
you're comfortable
academia.
and you know the scientific method.
Yeah, so basically, I was a bit accustomed already with academia, with the research approaches and how they
Mhm.
work. So I like to believe I had a better understanding of what it involves compared to most other people that come from a completely different background with no like knowledge or experience in the field.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was also really convenient because I was living in Edinburgh at the time, and all the Cardano research is pretty much done in Edinburgh. I was really tempted to just try and go for a PhD. I don't know, I'm still considering it, but
Okay, interesting.
mhm. But yeah, overall, like the approach I started afterwards, obviously, probably like many of us, looking at Charles's videos, and I really liked how open he was about the project.
Yes, he was. And sorry, you broke up. If you broke up, if you want to repeat that, you liked how open he was on the project.
So yeah, I started watching his videos. I liked that he was really open in general about the project. He was really communicative compared to many other projects where he had no idea what's going on. Like with Cardano, it was simple. You just go on his YouTube. He posts literally once every other day. You watch it, you know what's happening.
Yeah,
And the fact that he was doing so many AMAs where people could ask questions and he was really open to actually engage with the community was a really big benefit in my eyes.
yeah.
Um,
And an example to all of us because this is how we deal with things.
yep.
Yeah.
Um, so that was good. I obviously started doing a bit more research at that point as well into both him and the project. So I came across obviously the thing that most of people came across, which probably was a good entry point as well, which is that he was one of the co-founders of Ethereum. I was
Yes.
looking at the reason why he's left. So if I remember correctly, it was something along the lines of he wanted to make it commercial and Vitalik didn't. He wanted to go the basically not for profit organization.
Mm-hmm.
And despite being admirable, like Vitalik's opinion to go for this approach,
Yeah.
I do think that a for-profit organization has more chances of fast development and basically bringing better value. I think that's probably a very controversial topic. I'm
It
sure
is
there's
quite a
many different
controversial topic,
opinions.
and I will debate you on it in a moment. But it is quite
Mhm.
a controversial topic, and I think that's why a lot of people also kind of uh, speak badly of Charles and Cardano.
I think they do, but I think it's actually better for the project's development itself if you go down that path. I mean, there's a lot of examples you can take, including in the tech industries, that are similar approaches. I mean, even if you look up, a very good example would be Linux. Linux is the equivalent of Ethereum, let's say, when it comes to operating
Yes,
systems. It's a not-for-profit organization. It has great
yes,
success. It's very used. But on the other side, you have macOS, which is a pretty much almost a spin-off of Linux.
yeah,
It's running on the same kernel. And now I ask you, which one do you choose? Which one do you use?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
like when you generate the profit, you have also the money to invest, and you have the basically corporate interest to make a better product that people would like to use. So it's...
And honestly, not to speak badly of Ethereum, I still think Ethereum does have again, this is not financial advice, with crypto you always say that, but I still feel that Ethereum has a place and Ethereum will have a future. It's just it's taken so long for Ethereum to update. It literally opened the way for competition. Had they done those, I know I'm not a programmer, so maybe my understanding is a little off from you, but from my understanding, the reason Ethereum is not going the way it should is because it's much more difficult to update. And this is something that Cardano can do, is that it was built with longevity in mind and updates in mind.
I'm not sure that's necessarily the way it is. So the problem is with any system, once you built it, if you realize that you had a fundamentally wrong decision, especially in the core of how it runs, it's going to be really, really hard to update it as you go. And that's the problem with Ethereum at the moment, because the fundamentally wrong decision was doing proof of work for
Yes.
the settling mechanism. And once you go down that path, trying to move to proof of stake, it's not just a matter of simply flipping a switch, because I believe a lot of the dApps are actually relying on some particular functionality which can be easily provided with proof of work, but not so easily with proof of stake. So trying to migrate it now, I mean, I've seen that analogy many times, and it's pretty much true. It's like trying to change the tires like on a running car. It's not as simple. That's because
they would have to shut down the network, wouldn't they? And shut down many dApps and shut down this and shut down that.
It's not necessarily. That's what they're trying to avoid by the looks of it. They're trying to avoid like downtime, which is why this is happening. I mean, obviously they cannot really shut it down at the moment because it is decentralized. So that is true. They cannot stop it. If they try to stop it, what happens probably is it will just end up creating a fork, similarly to how there's Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. So yeah, once they try to do this, it will likely fork, and there will be still the old Ethereum and the new one, which will have the new functionality or whatever.
Yeah.
But that will just cause issues down like over time.
So now we are on Cardano, and now honestly, it's changed my life. The way I used it and the way I was able to do things with it. It has, for me, it has not only personally in my it has done so much for me that I started seeing what it's done for others. And now when people say crypto changed my life, I understand it because it did change mine. It changed many things for me. How has it changed things for you?
Oh, it started eating all my spare time to begin with.
Okay, all our spare time. That's another theme from everybody. Everybody has the same overarching theme. We have zero time between life, between work, if you still work, between this, which is essentially another job, between that. No one has any time.
No, I mean, I really like the idea of decentralized finance overall. I really like the idea of NFTs, and another controversial topic now, but I think that NFTs will go way beyond just art. I think art is just like a baby phase of what NFTs are actually meant to be. Obviously, it will still stick around. It will still have that great usage, but NFTs will be way more than that. NFTs will become the standard probably for identity, for proving ownership, and for every other things like that, like licenses for software. All of those things will end up being NFTs. You'll end up being able to freely transfer them, which in reality, it actually provides a good incentive on both users and on the companies releasing them. Because imagine you have companies like Microsoft that produce, let's say, well, Windows as an example, and they have license keys. Well, I'm sure they have so many license keys that are being reused or
Reused and yes,
basically stolen, sold, whatever. and they cannot really avoid that. They cannot avoid duplication. Like there's nothing they can really do to stop it. They can put mechanism in place to try and
Find
catch some
duplicates.
of them,
Yeah.
but realistically speaking, there's not much you can do. But with NFTs,
Yeah.
you cannot just duplicate it. So if you just use that to validate, you have the guarantee that it's pretty much only that account using it. You cannot have more than one account.
Yeah.
So it's a great tool for actually
This
moving
is the first
ownership.
time I hear of this use case, and I think it's fantastic.
I think that's one of the more like important commercial use cases coming up. So license keys, then you have the proof of ownership as a manufacturer, especially for the brands that are being basically faked. So you take, I don't know, Gucci or whatever, they can create NFTs associated with their products from the manufacturing phase. And whenever they give it to a vendor or they ship it, whatever, they transfer the ownership
Yeah.
to the person that's shipping it and then to the store and then to the end client. The benefit of this is that you have a proven NFT which tracks. Yeah, it sounds a bit complicated in a sense because you have to keep on
No.
changing ownership. But
I,
the idea is that you have proven record of where
yes.
that product has been, and you cannot
Yes.
try to introduce fakes into the supply chains because those fakes wouldn't have those NFTs provided directly by the manufacturer.
Yeah.
So the moment you try to do that, basically you cannot justify it. So they will be caught down the line. The problem with many of those supply chains is that not even the shops themselves know that fakes have been introduced. So even like you end up with stores ending up selling fakes without knowing. And
Yes. Yes. That
that
has
would
happened
be
many times. Yeah.
and that would be one good solution that would prevent many of those issues. So, I mean, technically speaking, you can even bundle those in the blockchain with an invoice. So the moment you invoice it you can bundle the NFT with it, so it wouldn't be too hard because we already write invoices every single time when you pass the products.
Yeah.
If you bundle those with the NFTs and
But the
there you
question
go.
becomes, to me, the thing that the crutch of physical linked to NFT is that when I sell the physical, I can keep the
Mhm.
NFT.
Yes, you can, but that's the responsibility of the buyer as well. So crypto is all about responsibility on our side as well, because that's the whole idea. We take responsibility for our actions.
Yeah.
We have the power to basically decide what we're doing. There's no one stopping us from, for example, investing into different opportunities the same way you can get with
Yeah.
traditional financial markets. There's no one telling us you cannot send money to that account or any other stuff like this, which
Yeah.
have happened before. I
Yeah,
mean,
I agree with you that there should be some responsibility on the buyer. And I think by the time this gets mainstream, people will know that things should come with an NFT.
I
And
mean,
at least from a certain date, like if this was purchased the 1st of January 2022 onwards, it should come with an NFT, and it will give it maybe even more value that it comes with an NFT because the buyer can then take the NFT. But then the next question for me becomes, how do we know that the product you are buying, the physical product, is the actual one linked to the NFT? Because serial numbers can be mimicked
yeah.
many.
So the other thing, it won't help with that problem. But think of it the other way around. If you're selling the NFT linked to a fake product, then you're stuck with the real product and no NFT to prove it's real. So how do you sell that?
True. True.
So it's in a way it's disincentivizing doing this because like realistically speaking, what can you do? You can buy the real for yourself and then try to sell a fake and keep the real without the NFT and use it yourself. But still, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not sure it's gonna be a very common approach.
I don't think so either because it will make no sense.
hmm
Yeah.
So yes, it's not solving all the issues, but it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And like you are asking about the responsibility on the buyer to get the NFT. I mean, when you're buying a property now, do
Yeah.
you get the contract of ownership? I mean, it's pretty much a known thing at this stage. Like, I'm pretty sure no one buys a property and they forget to take the contract of
Yeah,
ownership of that property. So it
yeah,
will become similar thing, or even a small thing. When you get a receipt from the shop, like, or an invoice from buying something, it'll be pretty much the same thing. Imagine a form where when you're introducing your details, you're also introducing your address. So you have name, surname, address, and like crypto address, whatever,
yeah.
and you just fill it. And when it ships, it also sends the NFT. End of story. Like, it might be something as simple. It might just be an extra field on a form when you buy something.
Which makes complete sense. And I think this is something that links a little bit to the metaverse because
Yeah,
people seem to. This is something Patrick and I spoke about, that people seem to think that the metaverse is this game you go into and it's this big thing, but in reality, it's a little bit more abstract than that. Well, a little bit, a very much bit, not a little bit. Yeah, more abstract than that. And what you're describing right now is part of the metaverse in a way.
to some extent, yes. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. So, well, human beings are generally capable of great abstractions in general, which is why we're really into computer games, into virtual worlds, and basically watching movies and stuff, just because we have the capability of abstractions, which other animals don't. So it's basically a link to our intelligence in
Yeah.
reality. I
Well,
mean,
let's not debate human intelligence because that's a completely different video and topic.
yes, I know. But yeah, that's also why we can value abstract things. That's why we value art, like, to begin with,
Yes.
because like we see more than just paint and whatever, like a
Yeah.
paper. Like, we don't see just the products, the raw products used to make it. You see the final product and the
Yes.
talent and the effort that went into producing it. So that's again
Yeah.
a link to abstraction, which is why it's true. Metaverse will end up being a very big thing because we have that tendency of abstract, like basically doing abstraction of everything that surrounds us.
Yes. And that's really interesting because if you just spoke about art, which brings us back to NFTs, like the one thing that I find interesting in my life with art, like this one behind me from one of my favorite artists, you've seen it many times through our calls. Just the one thing that attracts me to art in general is exactly what you said. It's that abstract feeling you get just by looking at it. Like it does something to you when it's just maybe a sheet of paper, it's a canvas, it's a digital piece of art, it's an NFT. And one thing I was speaking with Patrick, and I really enjoyed what he said, when I first saw your creatures, I didn't know what to think, but the more I look at them, the more I'm like, these are really cool. And that's another thing with abstraction. Sometimes the abstract, when we face it, we're confused.
Yeah,
And then slowly, the more we look at it, the more it abstractly makes sense to us. Like no one needs to explain it, it just makes sense to us. The more we look at it, the more we understand it. And the and linking back to the metaverse now, the metaverse is the same thing. The more you expose yourself to videos like this, to research, to reading, to this abstract thing that we think of as the universe becomes more clear. I know this is what happens with me, mostly because I was one of those people that thought the universe was something I'm going to have to wear an Oculus and go into and kind of enjoy myself in there. But really, it's all about connecting. It's all about connections. It's all about connecting everything and everyone on the
it is.
blockchain. Well, we're hoping it will be on the blockchain, not some centralized, some decentralized blockchain that many people are feeding into and taking out of.
It will be tricky with blockchains as well. There will be a lot of compromise on both sides, on the development side and on the government side. Probably more on the development side, if I'm being honest. Like, we have to see how it evolves over time. Like, there's both good and bad
Bitcoin
outlooks to
and
it.
crypto in general was outside the
Yep.
scope of government for a very, very long time. Well, a very long time in today's world, what, 11,
Sorry, I
12
think
years.
the connection broke up a bit, so I didn't hear.
I said Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in general, has been outside the scope of government for a long time in today's perspectives of long time, uh,
Mhm.
and now it's finally, well, I don't say finally in a good or bad way, but it's finally getting that recognition from the governments and everybody really because of NFTs. I mean, let's be honest. Yes, we have crypto millionaires, as people call them, but then you have the NFT world that showed people, the artistic NFT world, I want to say, that showed people what crypto is doing for them. It started with, to me especially, it started with artists taking back control. There will always be place for galleries. There will always be place for the middlemen. There will always be place
Yep.
for the gatekeepers. I don't think that's going away at all, ever. Because if we even see it in today's world, influencers are a thing. Who would have thought that influencers are going to become a thing 20 years ago? But
Oh yeah.
influencers are a thing. And back in the day, the galleries were the influencers. The curators were the influencers for art. Today, people spending their crypto are the influencers in a way, because the more they spend on a project, the more people see it.
Yep.
Yes, of course, there is that part of influencers are shining light on that project. But at the end of the day, if people don't like it, it won't sell. Whether we care or not, it won't sell. So
True.
it's the people that are becoming the influencers. And this is where I feel that we're getting that power. And this is where I feel like crypto has changed things, is that the voice has come to the people.
I think that is the main idea of crypto. Yes, the whole idea of the blockchain is individual responsibility. So you don't have someone basically spoon feeding you with everything and like slapping your hand every time they don't like what you're doing. Like you pretty much have free will to do what you want to do. So
Do
that's
that thing, you lose it.
yeah.
And I know I sent money by mistake to a wrong address, and then I was freaking out, and it turned out I sent it to myself.
Oh, like doing the vending machine tricks. I did have issues like that where people are complaining that they didn't get the NFTs and they're sending money to themselves. So like I made the transaction, look at it, I didn't get the NFTs. Like, yeah, well, yeah, you made it, but you send the money to yourself, not to the address to buy it.
Yeah. So I was one of them, I'm sure, that probably spoke to you about this. So coming back to NFTs in crypto, in the Cardano world, Cardano community, what have you found about the Cardano community itself that has really kept you here and attracted you to stay?
It's been a really welcoming community. I met a lot of great people like joining this community, and it's in a way weird to see how much each one of us has evolved from the moment when we started looking at how we are now. It feels like it's been like a lifetime, like
Yes.
a lot of personality development as well. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know, we're all pretty much just kids trying to find out what the hell are we doing with those NFTs
But you
like
see,
a year ago.
I agree with you. And this is the thing that has come up, sorry, over and over and over again with those talks, is that the NFTs are exactly where we need to be, because there's this unknown that we are no longer afraid of. Like in general, human nature, we are afraid of the unknown. Of course,
Yeah.
curiosity is why we evolved, and there is a part of us that is curious, but the scary unknown we usually don't jump in. But with NFTs, with all of this, when we jumped in back in the day, well, I say back in the day, last year in April and March and when it came to Cardano NFTs, who was it was saying that we pretty much the community jailbroke Cardano to put to put NFTs on it, because it was not made for NFTs when back in March. But then Alice and his team decided, no, we're going to do this, and they figured out a way, and we ended up doing it without smart contracts. And people were like, "What's happening? This is so cool! This is so amazing!" So there was a bit of that hacker aspect, that jumping into the unknown aspect, that bringing art to Cardano, all of that all came at the same time, all came
Yep.
together, and as you said, in a welcoming, fun way, that every interview I've had, I've heard the two same things: evolved, fun, and not being afraid of that unknown in a way. Like all of those have come together in such a special way in our community that I feel like we're really, really, really here because we want to be.
Mm-hmm. I know how I joined NFTs like Cardano. I was looking, I mean, at that point, I was already really into Cardano in general. I have been doing stuff with Cardano even before Shelly. So I remember the old days when I was waiting on Shelly to launch so I can start staking. I was like, I have all this Cardano and I have nothing to do with it. I want to start staking it.
Yeah.
That was fun. But yeah, when Mary era came with NFTs, I remember seeing the launch from Cardano Bits, the famous Google Docs launch.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just look at it, and I just couldn't believe the amount of demand it had. Like,
Yeah.
I was completely taken by surprise when I've seen that. So that was the one when I was like, okay, there's definitely enough demand for this to be worth something. So that's what I need to get into.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, well, basically that is actually the catalyst that triggered the beginning of NFT craze.
So I'm glad you mentioned NFT craze. Let's talk about NFT craze a little bit. What is NFT craze? Why did you come up with it, and how is it go? How has it evolved, and where is it going? Like, give me the evolution from start, from inception of idea to today, and then the future.
Inception of idea. Well, I already mentioned the catalyst of why I decided it's a good place to get into.
Yeah.
As an inception, it's actually pretty funny because it was never meant to be a big project, and then I was like, but I want to actually do those things. So the way it started, I was like, okay, we can probably just go ahead and create a collection and do a launch and then see how things go around. And I gathered basically a designer and another person to help put up everything like Twitter, website stuff. And as we're going along, I was like, maybe I need something more to basically appeal to the community. Maybe I need to build something that would actually help as well, both with the demand and also to bring value. So at that point, I was like, well, there doesn't seem to be pretty much any apps on mobile for Cardano. And my expertise was actually as a mobile developer, to be more accurate, Android developer. That's what I've been consulting for all those financial companies as an Android
Okay.
developer. So I looked.
While you speak, I'm bringing up my NFT craze.
Okay, so I've seen it was only Pool PM at the time for displaying NFTs and
Yes.
absolutely nothing on mobile.
Yes.
And basically, I thought a bit about it and I was like, okay, I can probably do something. I can inspect a bit to see how they're getting their data and all that stuff. And I can probably do something similar. And also being pretty much incredibly experienced in the field, I was like, okay, I think I can do that in 2 days. So pretty much the first version of NFT Craze, the first Android app, was 2 days of work. Like I've done it over a
Wow. Only
weekend.
2 days?
Yeah, that was a weekend's amount of work, like a full weekend, but yeah.
That's very impressive, Alex.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's obviously been more work coming after that. And after this, it pretty much caught up. Like a lot of people actually started engaging and liking the idea. And it came the popular question, when iOS? And I was like, uh-oh, I know Android development, but I don't know iOS development. At that point, I was like, okay, there seem to be enough people interested, so I might as well just invest my own money, like from my savings, and do the iOS version. So I got an acquaintance that was actually a Flutter developer. Flutter being a cross application, like cross OS application development. So basically, I contracted him to port the entire app from native Android into Flutter. And anyways, to the point where I could just pick it up and keep on doing work myself. So in a way, I've done what Ethereum is trying to do at a much smaller scale. I completely replace the app both on Android and added in iOS with a new Flutter app. To my surprise, I don't think anyone's noticed that in reality it's as if it was a completely new app, completely rewritten from scratch. So
Okay, I haven't been on it in a long time, but I'm so glad you mentioned it now because I'm back on it, and I really, really remember how people were saying, "Oh my God, I have this cool gallery in my hand. It's in the palm of my hand. I love it. It's amazing. It's this, it's that," and it's true. It's true. This is the beauty of it. It's such a nice. Uh, it's such a nice app that you can enjoy it on the fly wherever you are. You can tell your friends, "Oh, this is what I have on Cardano." Especially people that know crypto and don't know that Cardano has NFTs. You can say, "Well, there you go." Is there anybody else doing something now? I don't think so. I've never heard of anybody else.
my wife is also a software developer. She has been helping with different bits, especially on the web part and on the website. So, but as you're well aware yourself, she is now in her late pregnancy. So obviously the support on her end was definitely small because she needs to take it lighter at this point.
Yes.
And other than that, I also started working with another great web developer that I've known for a long time, and I'm really pleased to have him on board now. So,
Okay.
yeah, we're also considering actually a second web developer because there seems to be a lot of demand in the space.
Oof,
including
there
for
is, but that's another thing we hear about. There's so much demand in this space and so little supply. Like, I wish Plutus was easier to learn because everybody that I know that has said they've learned Plutus, they said it's been a nightmare for them. If they don't come from the base language that Plutus is.
Haskell.
Haskell, yeah. If they don't come from Haskell, they said it's such a learning curve for them that it was difficult at the beginning.
Mhm.
But people that have come from Haskell, they're like, yeah, whatever, this is fun, we know it, let's go ahead. But tell me if I'm wrong. What I understood is that there weren't many people that in Haskell to begin with.
Haskell is definitely not a very popular language. I think a lot of the usage for Haskell tends to be in very research-oriented applications and in very analytical, like
Okay.
maths, physics-based applications.
But do you
Because
know why Charles decided to go with Haskell?
I believe it's because of the fact that it's so. First of all, because it's a functional language, I believe that is the main reason. And there's not a lot of popular functional languages. I think it's pretty much two of them that I'm aware of. It's Haskell and Scala. Scala is actually what Ergo uses for their own smart contracts.
Ah, that's why
Cardano,
Ergo came in first, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
rem-
Cardano uses.
if I understand Ergo correctly, it's built on Cardano but uses Scala.
I cannot answer this. I'm actually not that
Okay,
much aware of the ins and outs of it.
okay. Someone was talking about Ergo somewhere, and I might be completely wrong, and I look like a complete idiot right now, which is okay because I'm okay looking like an idiot, as a lot of my friends know. Uh, but this is what I thought it is, but I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong.
I don't I
I
don't
don't
think
think
it
so. I
is
don't think so.
built on Cardano.
No.
I'm not sure, but I don't think that's true. I
Yes.
do know, however, that it's relying on the same EUTXO model for
Yes.
basically managing the
It
wallets.
is partners with Emurgo. This is why I might have made that mistake.
I'm not sure Ergo partners with Emurgo. I
It
can
is.
only
It is on their website. I'm on it
say that.
right now. I jumped on it very quickly just to check
Mhm.
myself. Yes, it is. It is partners with Emurgo, and maybe this is where I made this mistake. Maybe someone when we watch this sees it and
Mhm.
comments something. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, this I hear very good things about Ergo.
I Yeah, I played a bit with it. It seems to be quite nice. I've also played with the Ergo Dex, which is currently launched on Ergo, waiting on the Cardano version too. But yeah, it's definitely quite interesting. And yeah, I mean, as as Charles says as well, I'm not actually sure how Ergo has such a small market cap. Like there seems to be a lot already built on there. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, I hear you now. I'm not sure exactly which connection drops, whether it's mine or yours. I cannot hear anything from you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it was on my side this time. We'll edit it out later. Yeah, I was telling you I was on the Ergo website looking at it, and then you started talking.
Yes, I was saying that basically, I know Charles mentioned this before, that he's unsure why Ergo keeps such a low market cap based on everything they have already built on it. Yeah, I can reiterate that. It seems to have already a good amount of stuff. It has some good websites that are basically pointing to all the dApps they have available. Like they have a good marketplace. They have they're getting the Ergo decks now, which I think it's still kind of in testing, but it's still in the mainnet testing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. I'm not sure exactly why it's so unpopular. So
Yeah,
I'm
me
hoping
neither.
to catch up because I've definitely seen way too many like rubbish coins which have a way higher market cap. And I'm not
Yeah,
even talking about meme coins like Dogecoins. Like, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about like all the other coins which I don't know have some functionality but nowhere near big enough to justify being higher market cap than Ergo.
okay.
But yeah, cannot
Okay.
really cannot
We
really.
should learn how to mine Ergo because apparently you can mine it.
Yes, I believe at some point it was actually a better opportunity than mining Ethereum, and a lot of people moved from Ethereum to mining Ergo.
And is okay, that's interesting. We can come back to it later another time, but let's focus on because this is really interesting, the whole Ergo conversation. I've learned a lot, but I don't know enough to really discuss it. So
Exactly.
you're in our NFT world. You are one of the more popular or well-known minters in it. Everybody knows Alex from NFT CRAZE does minting.
Well, that's
How?
good to hear.
Sorry.
That's good to hear.
Well, maybe now they will know more when you might get a few requests. One
Mhm.
thing that the really, really cool team, like I had a very good conversation with the team from Retro NFTs. One of them that they were saying is that they just put a little post saying on the Discord, "Hey, we're minting for this project. Here's please support them." Blah blah. And they said suddenly, out of nowhere, they got like messages and messages for people helping that want to mint. I'm assuming you got the same thing back then. Less now. I hear there's less stuff coming out now, but still now most minters are very busy with minting.
Yes, there's still a fair amount of demand. Obviously, not as much as there was like 5 months ago, I think,
Yeah,
when basically everything was selling. Like
yeah,
literally every NFT was selling. It was impossible to have a sale that was not at least doing okay.
yes, that's true.
hmm
And
Uh,
do you
yeah,
enjoy that aspect of it? Do you enjoy the minting aspect? Because I know there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of manual work that goes into it.
there is a fair amount of manual work, yes, mainly because I'm doing a fair amount of curation. And the
When you
way
say curation, explain to people. I know what you mean, but explain to people what you are curating.
um, okay, so generally speaking, quite often I tend to get like a big bunch of raw data, often in completely different formats from different people, and I have to try and make sense of what they exactly want to do with that data, like what they actually want. I think for you it's actually one of the better cases where it's a bit more clear, like you've heard, like you know enough now to have a better idea of which
Yeah, but
information.
at the beginning, remember the nightmares we went through, you and I, at the beginning, and you had to change things for me, and we threw stuff in the trash in my trash wallet because it didn't work. Remember that? We had a
Oh
few.
yeah, that was
That was
So
early on. That was April, I think, or May.
yeah, I remember the times at the very beginning when I didn't even know how to burn them. And
Yes.
also, I know we did another failed mint where I didn't save the policy because I didn't think we need the policy anymore. So it's like we need to burn those. Like, well, about that. Like, I don't have the policy
Oops.
anymore.
So I'm keeping those all in a trash wallet that I call the trash wallet, but they will be the broken NFTs that someday I'm hoping will be worth a lot of money. But we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, keep on going.
Okay. So yeah, curating is a lot about looking at the data and trying to make sense of it, trying to correct the small mistakes, because there's a lot of limitations as well that some people might not be aware of in terms of
Yeah.
length of the phrases that you have, like in the metadata, like the title cannot exceed particular lengths and similar things with pretty much every field in there. So if you don't validate this beforehand, you might end up in a situation when during a live sale you try to mint that and you realize that it just doesn't work. So the whole minting stops because it's not been properly like verified.
Yeah.
So it's very important to pretty much validate all those things before the sale, so you don't end up finding out during the sale that that cannot be minted.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. The second thing that I've been doing for quite a lot of people, especially for those PFP drops, the ones that are layering, is doing some statistical analysis on the layering, because it's very easy to say, I'm going to have those layers, I'm going to put like the percentage for this attribute to be 5%, 10%, 1%. And out of this, I want to make 10,000 different combinations. The problem is that sometimes it's not as simple as doing that, because if you look at the layers, generally speaking, if you multiply the odds from the most common attribute on every single layer. So let's say you have 3 layers. The most common one is like 10%, which needs to be in decimal, so 0.1. If you multiply the 3 most common
Yeah.
ones, so 0.1 times 0.1
Yeah.
times 0.1, you have
It won't come up to the number they want.
0.001.
Yeah.
And then if you multiply that by the number of NFTs you want to create, if it's 10,000 NFTs, and if you multiply 0.001 times 10,000, that gives you the number of NFTs you expect to have with that exact combination. In this particular case, that would give the number 10. And what this means is that if you generate 10,000 random NFTs, you should expect that that exact combination to appear 10 times.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. If you're telling me that you want 10,000 unique NFTs, but then you're giving me a distribution of percentages that basically generates 10 copies of it, if you generate 10,000 from a statistical point of view,
That's
we
not
have
gonna
two
work.
options. We either change the distribution to make, so what you need to do is you need the most common combination to be more rare. So you need to decrease the odds of the most common things.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, I can still try to force it to be uniques, which is basically, if that NFT exists, generate a new random one and keep on repeating that every single time it
You find
generates
something that was
one
done
that exists.
already.
The
Yeah.
problem is that it still does exactly the same thing, because in reality, the final distribution of percentages will be different than what you asked for, because
Yes.
by dropping the duplicates, I'm basically skewing the distributions, so they won't be anymore the way the artist wanted them.
Yes.
So that's why a lot of the time, like basically some statistical analysis on the actual layering is very important, because you might end up with completely distorted results if you don't do that.
Actually, this happened with me with the cute creatures. We had enough layers and enough colors to go very far, like 11 times 11 times 4, you know?
Yeah, but that's when you assume that they have equal opportunity. Basically, they have equal percentages. But when you start
Yes.
doing
But when I
percentages,
started playing with the percentages, we got to a point where we were missing, I think, like 100 or something. We weren't missing too many. So we had to manually add them here and there and try and keep the percentages not too far off, because the way it happened with the cute creatures is that the colors and the creature rarities were all decided by the community through a Twitter post I made. I asked them what they liked most, and then for one aspect of the drop, what they liked most was the most popular. For the other aspect of the drop, what they liked most was the most rare. So we kept it balanced as we could. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, because it happened to me, and I'm sure a lot of artists, they learn a lot from that. And
I'm sure a lot of people got to that issue, and so I think that at the moment there's actually a lot of minters out there, a lot of them which just use NFT Maker Pro. So it's a lot of, let's call them indie developers, which just do everything through NFT Maker Pro, and they just get a commission on top of the fees they pay there.
Okay.
Yeah, just for the record, I don't use NFT Maker Pro. I have everything else that was built on house.
To be fair, we do use NFT Maker Pro, and you did build the backend for it. Was for a very particular case, which is what we needed to build for this particular project. And yeah, so we do that for our project. Yes, that's true.
Yes, for our project we do it, but that is actually the exception. That's the first time I'm using it, because
it's needed, and it has a very good solution. So
yes, it has a very good solution. I'm not saying that his services are not good, because they're great. Like overall, it's a good platform. It is a bit complicated though, so you need a fairly capable developer to understand how to use it.
This is why it's called Pro. I did tell him that. I told him, look, I want to use it, but I'm not as professional. He's like, Chadi, it's called Pro for a reason. And I'm like, okay, you got me there. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. So when are we getting the light version? So he is working on a light version, from my understanding. So he knows that it is more for people like you, who know how to use code and stuff, more than it is for
people that are, the way I'd say, they need to be at least mid-level developers to be able to effectively use that, if not even senior. Because if they're mid-level, they might manage to set it up, but they might end up getting stuck if there's an issue somewhere. So they won't be able to effectively solve the issue during a sale.
But this is exactly why, again, it's called Pro.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it offers the tooling. What's the problem? The problem is that every single time when you simplify something, and that's a general rule, that's not a rule for NFT minting or for anything else. The moment you simplify something, you need to make a decision between user experience and functionality trade-off. You cannot keep all the functionality trade-off with simple user experience. You can think of it as, even with programming. Programming is the absolute functionality and flexibility, but it's also the worst user experience. you can do, I mean,
true, because it's all words.
Yeah, you can do everything.
It's all characters. It's all characters. And for someone like me who doesn't understand that language, I might not understand it. But for someone who does understand that language, they will understand it very well.
So yeah, you have the flexibility to build pretty much everything through code, but it's not easy. It's not quick. So it's always a trade-off, and that's the same with NFT Maker Simple, like the light version, the normal one, and NFT Maker Pro. NFT Maker Pro allows to do a lot of stuff, and because it still maintains the flexibility to do a drop in almost any way you want, that's why you have the extra complexity, which requires someone still to be fairly advanced with programming to be able to utilize it, because it's complicated otherwise. Like, it's a lot to grasp. So that's why I've been asked this before about trying to do a simple vending machine personally as well, ideally through the NFT CRAZE app. And I said that's impossible. You cannot have that level of complexity, because once you add it, you'll make it impossible for regular users to use. So it depends on who you're targeting. If you're targeting regular users, you cannot do that. You cannot make a vending machine on a website unless you make it very restrictive by very strict, I mean you make it very, very standardized. You don't give a lot of options on how to set up the metadata and stuff. You're basically telling them you can update those layers, you can set the percentages, and you can, in the metadata or whatever, you can set a name, a website, and a Twitter, and that's it. You cannot customize anything else. If you go with something like this, it would work for a lot of people. It will be convenient. But the moment you need something a bit more advanced, you need to change something that's beyond what they provide you, it's completely unusable because you cannot adapt
And this is something that the Mermada has done. They did this where they made it quite simple, but it was very simple. You couldn't add too much. You couldn't do this, but it was convenient for people that only wanted to mint maybe 5 or something like that. It did work. It worked very well, and it was very. I say from my understanding, it still is very affordable, etc. So there is that option for those people that want it. And again, this is the beauty of our community, is that they are all doing their own thing, but they're all going the same direction, in the sense that they're all trying to make it as best and as easy as possible for people.
Yep, I agree. And again, like the more you standardize it, the less you have flexibility on doing stuff. Even what we're talking about, well, just 2 days ago, with the bundling of NFTs in a single transaction.
Okay. Yes, that was such a
and like that's again the reason why in my case it was easier to update my vending machine as opposed to updating NFT Maker Pro to handle it, because by making a platform that's meant for users to utilize, so basically it's abstracting some of the complexity in that platform for them to make those changes now. It's a lot more complex than it is for me personally, because I don't have a publicly available platform that I'm using for other people. So I have a lot more flexibility in making changes because it's lower level.
Yeah, so, that's true. That's true. And that's. I mean, I appreciate you and Patrick. This is something that now is public because we're talking about. But this is something that I appreciate about Patrick a lot and about you, is that Patrick was able to say, you know what, I'm not able to do this right now. I know we can update NFT Maker Pro to do this. However, at this moment in time, we really just do not have the time, Chadi. We have so many projects going. I'm really sorry, Chadi, but I just can't do it for you. And we were like, okay, so do you mind if someone else does it for me? He's like, no, of course not, because I had promised him to be with him from the beginning. And unfortunately, I couldn't go on with it. But then the beauty of it is he understood, and he was like, yes, sure, let Alex handle it, since he's handling the development phase anyway. Let him handle it for you if he can. And that's when I came to you, and you were like, give me the day. And then you went for a day and came back in the evening, and you're like, I think I figured it out. Yes, we can do it. Let's move on to the next problem or challenge.
Yep.
I don't know if you appreciate it, but I really love that I'm probably one of those people that is throwing challenges at you a lot.
Sorry, can you repeat that? The connection.
Yeah, I said I don't know if you appreciate it much, but I see myself as probably one of those people that throws a lot of challenges at you. That like sometimes you expect, and sometimes you're like, why are you doing this to me? But you know what? I hate to refuse a challenge. Let me go check it out, and then you go check it out, and you come back.
Yeah, it tends to be like that. And to be honest, I do understand his point, though. Like it's often like time is limited, so with every single challenge that we take, we also need to balance out what is the other thing we can do with our time. Sometimes it might just be more effective to refuse something only because we can probably provide better value somewhere else, which is not necessarily implying that what you want is not good. And that's generally true. It's not only for you, it's for other people, because I had to refuse some piece of work in the past because of the issue, because of this particular issue, where what they want, despite being a cool thing, despite being a good thing for their sale, for me personally, it might be something that doesn't have actually much reusability. So me putting that work to build something for them might not be an effective use of my time. Because in that sense, if I do something that can be utilized only for their sale, and most likely no one else will ever ask for me, there is a good chance that I'll probably ask either reject it, or I'll have to ask something that might seem unreasonable only because otherwise I cannot justify the time to build that thing.
Yes, fair, and it's true. I agree with you on that. It's very true because it's very difficult to say yes to something that you know will keep you from doing something else. And that's something that I've spoken about with other mentors and with Patrick on this subject yesterday, is that one thing we've all been learning in this community, like for me, it's a little different because maybe also for you, that we come from that business type of environment where at the beginning of your career, you're hesitating to say no, you don't know how to say no much, etc. But now, after you're in the career for a few weeks, a few years, that's where you go, okay, you know what? I can't do this right now. No. And it's not personal. And
Yep.
this is something that I feel like the community, some people are taking it personally, others are not, and that's okay. But this is one thing that I feel like our community is all learning together is it's okay to say no. It's okay to sleep. Don't stay up all night or every single night. It's okay to take time off from this community. It's okay to disconnect. It's okay. Like it's a theme that's been coming up in these conversations where people are telling me, yeah, one of the things that I learned about myself is that I can say no. I can't stop
Mm-hmm.
myself from doing this. I can't do this. I can't do, and this is what I'm loving. And this is something we just touched on right now. Is yeah, sometimes you just have to say no.
I had many instances where there are people coming to me asking if I can do something for them, sometimes even like smaller jobs. And basically, I told them, see, I can definitely do this, but I recommend you seek for someone else, maybe point to a person for you to do it, because my time would cost a lot more than that thing is worth. So I'm like I can do it. That's not a problem of being able to. The problem is that in
I
order
would
for
have
me
to
to
charge you
dedicate the
more than
time of such to do such a thing, I'll have to charge you way more than it's worth for that thing, because generally speaking, I tend to work on more complex stuff, and there are sometimes easy stuff that still take time. And most of the time I need to basically do an estimate of uh, costs or whatever based on the time I spend, not necessarily based on complexity, because in the end, time is limited. It doesn't matter
yes.
if it's complex or not what I'm building, the time is the same
Yes, and
quite often.
that's something that I remember seeing on one of those. I saw something once on a Instagram post or something. It's like, I'm not charging you X amount of dollars for the project. I'm charging you per hour because I want to charge you. This is years of experience. I'm not charging you per hour. I'm charging you for those years of experience of
Yep.
my life that have made me come here. And that is something that I feel like in this community sometimes not everybody understands, that if I want to charge a certain amount for a commission, it's because this is taking my time away from building maybe the cute creatures that maybe right now are making me zero, but later down the line they can make me more. It's the
Yep.
same thing for you. If you are charging an X amount of ADA for something per project, it's because you're cutting down the number of hours you need, and then from there you are doing your budget and saying, okay, this is how much I want, and then they might be surprised, which is fine. It's okay to be surprised, but then at the
Yep.
same time, they need to understand that you're not charging them just for the project. You're charging them for that time lost from that other thing. Even if it's learning a new language, even if it's whatever, but all of that is
Mhm.
adding to your skill set.
Yes, that's completely true. And yeah, I had discussions with other people wanting similar to the creatures, like very complex projects which include a lot of development. Sometimes it might have been something. It's often very hard to draw the line as a user from something that's very simple and something that's very complex. Like sometimes the line can feel like very blurred,
Yes.
but it sometimes might ask for something that is seemingly very simple, and then like basically when I do the estimates and stuff, it ends up being way beyond like what they're willing to pay. And The problem is that sometimes even I agree that there's no value in building that thing, just because, unfortunately, as easy as it might seem, it is indeed actually a pretty complex thing, and the value it adds might not justify the cost or the time.
Yeah.
And
And yeah, and it's true. It's true. It's very, very true. It's just some people, like, even with us, we had to sit down and really say, Chadi, do you really want this? Do you really need this? Can we simplify it? I remember we spoke about this, and you were like, okay, I agree it's a cool project. I agree it's this, but this is how much it's going to cost. Can you afford it? I was like, nah, not really, but I'll figure it out. But then we were like, and then we ended up doing it mostly because after you figured it out and after you played with it a little bit, we saw that the user experience did turn out to be fun. We saw that the user experience did turn out to be something
yeah,
enjoyable. That's when I think we both, you more than me, because you were working on the back end, I kind of had it in my head already. You were like, okay, yeah, I get it. I agree with you. This is going to be fun. Let's go with it. Okay, I am more invested in this project now. I really enjoy it more. And that's
yeah,
where I was happy because the technical mind of yours and the creative mind of mine started seeing the same thing. And
yep,
that to me was really cool. That to me was really, really, that moment to me out of working with you on this particular project was like, I think it even made me closer to you as a friend. Like we
yep.
have our
I
business
agree.
aspect of it. We have a lot of the business aspect together, and we talk a lot of business. But as a friend, as someone I would just chat with, I think
Yep,
that is where you and I kind of connected on a more personal level
I agree.
because of our professional experience, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yep, I do agree. We definitely have a very different set of skills, like you and I, because I tend
Yeah.
to obviously be really focused on the technical aspects of it. But I mean, I'd be lying if I wouldn't recognize the fact that my marketing skill is pretty low.
Well, some would say mine is too. I'm not the best marketer, apparently. I'm just creative in like ideas and getting things together and making it happen.
It's
Uh,
still not better than mine. I can guarantee you that.
yeah, so this brings us to the point of connections between people. Like one thing I've realized through all those calls, not only by talking to you guys, but also by listening, is that every single interview I've had until now, and then I'm sure the next ones too, is that people are saying the same thing. We made connections, we made new friends, we made a community, we feel less alone, maybe because of the pandemic, we were always at home. Like people, this is a returning theme on those calls where a lot of the people that I spoke to said the same thing, is that they loved making those connections. And I assume it's the same with you.
I agree. There's a lot of like really cool people that I got to interact with that I just wouldn't have had the chance unless I was in this space.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a very interesting journey.
So if other than me, of course, because I know I'm special for you, we're very good friends now. But other than Shadi, do you have a few instances where you thought to yourself, okay, if we were in the same city, we would be friends?
Hmm. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Quite a
Exactly. And this
amount
is
of
the
them.
thing. This is the thing I've heard a few times, is that people would say, if we were in the same city, we would be friends. I met this guy, I met that guy, I met this, and this is the fun thing that I feel. I feel this is the most important thing of what we are creating.
Yeah, there's a lot of like people. I don't know. I think again the line is very very blurred between like friendship and business partner because
Mhm.
there's many people with which I did different pieces of work, either minting or airdrops or more complex stuff. But now, like it, it depends. Some of them might have taken a completely different way. They start focusing on another product which has nothing to do maybe with minting NFT art, but it's still in the space. But we still end up communicating on a very regular basis. We just debate topics like on the field and stuff like that, even though in reality we don't really have a business interaction anymore, more than on a very occasional basis. We still throw ideas one at another, we debate them, we seek how to be improved.
Yeah,
So yeah, basically we keep on helping each other, even though in reality we're not really working together on the
yeah,
project like as business partners.
yeah.
And yeah, I think that's very cool.
Yeah, and I see that in every call I've had that people are saying the exact same thing. That and another thing I've noticed is that most of the mentors not only know each other but also know a kind of the workload each other have. Like a lot of the time someone would say, why don't you, like the way I came to you with the project is, of course I knew you were a programmer, but for some reason my mind had completely blanked that you can take something on like this. Someone was like, I think it was Rokindo was
Yeah,
like, why,
yeah, it
why
was.
don't you talk to Alex? I'm like, Rokindo, why don't I talk to Alex? It's like Alex and I are close. We talk a lot. But why don't I talk to Alex? You're right. So that's when I came to you, and I'm like, and I felt so shy and stupid because why didn't I talk to you? You know what I mean? Like this is the thing that got into my head, and I feel like everybody in the community, especially the quote unquote OGs, we're so interconnected that we kind of know what's happening with everyone. So I've had mentors say, no, go to Marcus. He has a better vending machine. I haven't had time to fix mine yet on this particular aspect. Or go
Mhm.
to Alex. I know he does that very well. He did it for me last week. Or, there's always this stuff happening.
Yep, that's true. We're really interconnected, and if I'm being honest, especially on the NFT minting, display, wallets aspect, we tend to be just a handful of people on the technical side. So it's
Yeah.
quite hard to not cross paths like sooner or
Yes.
later. And yeah, it's true with the OGs artists as well, the ones that actually stayed in the space, because unfortunately there are also a lot of people which come just for a sale and then vanish. But
Well, yes, I know one of the OGs. I feel really badly for them because they were one of the OGs, like legit OGs, and they had to leave the space because I found out later the person behind it, even though it seemed very mature through the texting, and you would think they're an
mhm,
older person, was someone in a university and had parents to answer to and had that family pressure on them. So even though they had the best of intentions, they ended up having to close the project because they had to, because they couldn't go on, because there was so much in the real life kind of pressuring them out of it. And I felt very badly because that's probably a person that wanted to stay in there, but then got all this negativity from the people. You dropped it. This was a rug pull, rug pull, rug pull. Okay, maybe technically it might have been a rug pull because they made promises, but at the
mhm,
same time, we have to understand that people in this space can be of different ages
yeah.
and different levels of evolution in their life, that they sometimes take on more than they can chew, to not really a fault of their own, mostly because they just
Mhm.
don't know better. They're just too young to know, and
There
it
is
happens.
another aspect to this, which I personally found quite common. And I think a lot of the people, like the user base, looks at it as a rug pull, which is technically correct, but not quite in the same time, at least not intentional. I've seen many instances where there are a lot of promises, especially on the development side, that they'll build something without properly grasping the scale of what they promised.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna build this cool game. Like, well, have you ever spoken to a game developer before you made this promise? Because, like, I mean, you'll quickly realize that building a game quite often takes years. And
yeah,
not only that it takes years, you might soon realize that if you want to actually build something, okay, it can easily take you into the million of dollars.
yes,
And like when they realize those costs, they obviously have to rug pull because they cannot afford that level of investment. They're
yeah,
just completely like taken by surprise at that point. So it's very easy to like basically misjudge the
yeah,
complexity of what you're promising.
yeah,
And
exactly.
it again leads to the same issue where as an artist or regular user, it's very hard to draw the line between what's easy and what's extremely complicated to do.
Yeah,
So I know there was a similar post at some point that I've seen with which I cannot agree more. So it was an interaction between like a normal person and a developer. And the normal person or something like, I want to make an app to basically take pictures in Central Park in New York, and I want to show the location on a map where I took the picture. And the developer's like, okay, I can do that in 3 days. And the person's like, and I want to tell me also the kind of person, the kind of bird I take picture of. It's like, okay, 3 years and a team of researchers, please.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sometimes like a seemingly small difference, like between taking a picture of a bird and mentioning what bird it is, can seem fairly small as a change, but in reality, it increases the complexity to level beyond understanding.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Like I liked I like the analogy you made, because a lot of people are going through this now, where they're thinking of projects. Maybe hopefully people watching this, they're going through a project in their head, and now they kind of know how to think about it, because sometimes they're going one way when actually they should be thinking in many different ways just to grasp the scale of their project.
They need to generally research on the cost and complexity of what they're promising before promising it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I think only recently I got someone that messaged me about a big complex project. But for once, I'm amazed because that person properly seems to grasp the costs and the effort involving that project. So he
Fair.
understands that it's not just a simple, I'm going to do this, it's going to be 3 days, and hopefully with $200 you can build it for me. Like, not quite, doesn't work like
Not
that.
quite. No, not quite.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really enjoying this call. So
Okay.
do you think it's long enough? We're at an hour and 15 minutes. It did not feel like an hour and 15 minutes to me. Hopefully people listening will not feel like it's been an hour and 15 minutes either. But do you want to go on, or shall we call it a day?
I'm personally happy to go on. We can still actually talk about NFT craze and cute creatures because we've not yet reached that.
Okay, so let's start with NFT craze. Do you want to share the website and share some assets? And then we can go on to create creatures very quickly.
I'm not even sure. I'll be honest, I'm not perfectly prepared to share. I'll talk along the lines, and also sharing might not be the best approach because we've recently made some big changes on the direction where the project should head, and that's not been reflected on the website yet, which is
Okay.
why it's probably a better idea to just talk it through.
Okay,
And
so go ahead, talk it through.
okay, so I'll start with what was the initial plan. The initial plan was to obviously turn it into an NFT marketplace. So that was one of the goals. Probably most of the people were aware of this goal. At the moment, there's already been a fair amount of NFT marketplaces that have appeared, some of which are very good. And if I'm being honest, I cannot see a competitive edge on actually doing that anymore. I don't think there's much extra value I can bring that others didn't bring yet. So it would be in a way redundant to go down that path,
Fair enough.
at least for now. So I decided that, okay, it's probably not the best direction to take. There were a lot of complications on why this work didn't start earlier, because the whole idea of the project was to sell our Doors to Beyond collection, which has been finalized for probably 7 months. Like, it was literally ready to go completely. But we've encountered a lot of issues from, not issues actually, but lack of clarity from the legal perspective, because the whole project was always meant to be done through a corporate, like a limited company.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be some real issues when they're trying to sell on the crypto space without having personal information of your customers, at least
Mm,
in different countries, like
yes,
European Union seems to be
KYC. Like
particularly
most people
picky.
know it, it's KYC. Yes.
Yeah, KYC. So I've tried in UK, I've tried in Romania. I couldn't get anything mm, other than pushbacks, basically telling me you cannot do this, and if you do this, you might be at risk of breaking anti-money laundering laws, which can leave you with huge issues. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'd like to do this, but not to the extent where I'm risking such like a big problem.
Yeah.
So
So how are the others doing it? They're taking the risk?
I think a lot of them are taking the risk, yes.
Oh, wow.
And there's been a bit more clarity since. The problem was mainly, especially with doing it as a limited company. It seems to be a lot easier if you're actually doing it as just as a person, basically, just on your own.
As a freelancer.
Yep. If you don't have a limited company, you don't have such big issues. And right now, for example, there was
Again,
recently
just to
some
be clear for people watching, this is not legal advice. You have to go
no.
to a lawyer, find your own lawyer, find your own people, find your own accountants to tell you what you need to do in your own countries. Yes.
Yes,
Go ahead.
obviously, that widely varies between countries. What I'm speaking about is my experience with the people that I spoke to. And to be very clear, the people that I spoke to were also pretty much in the dark. They were telling me what they thought, but they didn't provide any like proper proof that that's how it's gonna be. They thought that it might cause me issues because it might like
Because
have
yeah, it's
things.
such an unregulated space at the
Yep.
moment that it could fall here, it could fall there. We really don't know.
Exactly. And from my research, I found some. Do you know why a vending machine is called a vending machine?
Yes.
Hmm?
Why?
In the crypto space?
Why?
Well, I've been searching because I believe it was. I don't actually remember who was the first one to have used the name, but I'm pretty sure it was Yasin, I think it's called.
Yes, Yasin.
I think he's the one that came up with this name, and then it ended up being adopted by the others as well. To my knowledge, he was also in the European Union, and I did find some particular clauses, like by reading online, that specified that the vending machines, the automated vending machines where you just enter money and get a product, are except of the invoicing stuff. And I think the whole idea of calling it a vending
Uh,
machine is to make it fall within that gray area to say, I'm using this as a vending machine automated tool, and that's why I'm except of having to give invoices. I am fairly certain that that's what was in his mind, and maybe he was advised by someone. That's my speculation. I've never been confirmed that this is the case, but I'm fairly certain that this is why that name
Very
came.
interesting and very smart on whoever decided to use the term.
So yeah, I do think it's him that promoted it initially, but I might be wrong. So,
Yes.
anyways, I found this problem overall with selling my own NFTs, which actually was not as big of a problem when I was selling someone else's NFTs, because at that point I knew who the customer is, which is the artist. So when I'm selling someone else's NFTs, my customer is the artist selling. So I don't have the same issues as when I'm selling my own NFTs, where I don't know who the customer is. So I
Okay.
could work with artists as a limited company with no issues. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky way, but the vending machine initially was designed exactly because I want to sell my own collection. It was never designed as a product to be like used with other artists.
Yeah.
That was me adapting to the situation. Like, of I
Yeah.
built that thing, it works. I don't seem to be able to use it at the time for my own collection, but I can at least repurpose it.
Yes.
So yes, there was that collection. I struggled for a long time to sell. Apparently, very recently in Romania, where I'm currently at, there was some mention that if as an individual person, not as a limited company, you sell NFTs, you have to just do some end of the year declaration where you specify the income from NFTs and you just pay the tax on that.
Yeah.
So that recent clarification actually means that finally I can go on and have some justification if I sell those things. So they cannot tell me that I did it maliciously or I was trying to break the law.
Yeah.
So the so going back to why this was an issue, is that was meant to be our funding round all along. We're meant to do that sale 7 months
Uh,
ago to fund all the development of the project. So the marketplace was meant to be built with the money made from that collection. But
Yes.
we could never launch the collection, which means that all the development was slowed down because we had to basically rely on the income made by the vending machine and also just using spare time as opposed to being able to fully dedicate all the time on it.
Yeah.
So at the moment now, we can finally look into raising the capital with the NFT sale and
But what
develop
will
the
you use
product.
it now for if not a marketplace?
But yes, it's too late to start on a marketplace. I don't think it's too late to start on a good mobile wallet though, which has the advantage that it really ties into my expertise. So
Yes.
I really I really know in general what a good mobile app should be. All my experience with mobile apps was
Yes.
only on like global level, like top products from top companies. I'm not used to work with small products basically, so I know how to deliver like pretty much top class quality on the
Yeah.
product that I built when it comes to mobile. So I expect I can bring real value there as well as well, the idea obviously is to bring smart contract integration. And
Yes.
I do have a fairly good idea on how to do it in a way which not even Ethereum has done it yet. Because you mentioned
Nice.
previously that Ethereum relies on the browser that comes from MetaMask, for example, which provides some
Yes.
integration.
Yes.
I don't want to do that. I want it to go through the native browsers or whichever browser you use on the phone
Yes.
to be able to have all the smart contract integrations. And
Okay.
what I have done in the past, I have worked on a fairly similar concept, actually twice in two different banks, which is called the Open Banking Protocol API, which is meant to do. It's not actually a one-to-one thing, but it's meant to provide a way for cross communication between third parties and banks. So it's meant to be able to make easy transfer between banks and to also, as a third party provider, like as a vendor,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
you can set up a payment through just a click that redirects you to the
Yes.
banking app to finalize the payments. So that's
Yes.
already becoming quite popular in EU. And the whole idea is that I've already done this twice, not once. I pretty much know how to
So you
make
would use the same
protocols
API,
between.
but for crypto.
It's not the API that is the really big issue. It's the communication itself between website and the native app, making this securely and doing it well. It's fairly tricky in general, like to say the least. But I have done it twice, which means that I have a lot of insights that other people that might decide to just do it now without the previous experience would
Mm.
struggle, like would find a lot of questions that need answering.
Yeah.
So
When
yes,
when do you feel like you will be able to do that? A mobile wallet that has that, because I think one of the first mobile wallets that is trying to come out is CC Wallet.
yes, I'm aware of that.
CC Vault.
Uh,
Yes.
yes, I think they have a great product in general. I do
Yeah.
personally use their desktop version of the
Yes.
wallet.
Me too.
So that's making it even more trickier for me. But yeah, I still plan to do it nonetheless. I still plan to build this product. And obviously, smart contract integration won't be in the first release of the product. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Of course.
Because I do believe that we need to build in an iterative manner. We need to keep on releasing iterations and keep on getting feedback and updating
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. So that's that. So NFT Craze is going to go from a gallery to a wallet, but we'll keep the gallery aspect of it.
Yes, we're definitely meant to still keep a good focus on NFTs in general. Even if we turn into a wallet, we do want the NFTs perspective of it to remain there. So it's still going to be focused on displaying NFTs and stuff like this. We're just meant to add proper wallet functionality to it. But with as with everything that I want to build in general, I think that too little emphasis is being put on user experience with way too many products. I believe it should be very simply to use, which is what I've been targeting with the gallery as well. Like it needs to be very simple. You don't need to have a lot of
keep it
like
simple.
stuff.
That's the rule.
Yep. So I want it to be attractive for people that have very little experience as well. So it should be fairly straightforward.
Cool. And then once that is done, do you have anything else you want, or you think that will take you a couple of years to finish, or it will be an ongoing thing?
I don't think any product is ever fully done. There's always room for improvement.
Okay, so we know that NFT craze will be in your life for a long while until you decide to sell it. Maybe we don't know. We'll see.
It's hard to tell now what exactly is the future. Ideally, I'd like to get the products at a good level and get enough cash flow to be able to properly hire people to dedicate their time on further building and improving them while I can look into further things to build.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally speaking, I am mainly developing now, but that's also because I don't afford the cash flow to make other people develop it for me.
Yeah.
So there's literally a lot of things that I'd like to build. The problem is only the time and the capital.
And the capital, yeah. So I really enjoy those talks with you because the more I talk to you, the more I see that you are someone that is not only smart, but you are methodical. You plan things the right way. You don't just take anything on. Like you have that technical brain, but you also have that really analytical brain in the sense that you want to make things done the right way. You don't want to do too many things and do them the wrong way, or you don't want to do anything that will eventually end up creating more work for someone later, which means efficiency is a very big thing for you. And that is something that I think maybe that's why we relate so much, because I might have the creative, crazy brain, but I try to do it as efficiently as possible, which I know to someone that's more analytical than you and more technical than you, as efficient as I try to be, it'll never be as efficient as you guys. So.
I'm sure we both have our different things where efficiency shines and where it falters.
So when it comes to the cute creatures, what brought you to the cute creatures? Or at least I brought you, but what made you think like, okay, this is something that I will enjoy doing, not only something that I can do?
I'm generally really keen on challenges, and I really like the idea of what you want to build. It seemed like a pretty massive thing overall, like really complex, but also like something that is actually doable, because I've seen many times where people are like, can you port this from Ethereum? And like there's the code already on GitHub. And I'm like, no, actually I really can't. Like it's barely anything that I can use from that entire code. Like that's not something that's realistic. So it's good when when I get good projects from people that understand the complexity of what they're asking. It's always a pleasure to actually see. And you're right. I'm generally quite methodical. I like to do stuff well. So if someone is not willing to give me the time or the capital to do that thing well, I would straight away reject it. I'll say I'm not building this because my name is on it as well. Like my name as a person that built it is on it, and I would not sacrifice on the quality. Like if you're not providing with the means to make it right, I'm not gonna make it at all. Like it's as simple as that.
It's fair. It's fair. Again, I think that's a very good thing that we have in with at least a lot of people are learning, if they don't have it yet. It is that either expect to hear no or expect to say no. No hard feelings. There are never any hard feelings with something like that. It is something that we have to understand especially in our community of NFT makers and NFT technical assistance and NFT technical support and NFT creators, because you are creators also, but on the other side, like you guys are creative with code, we are creative with what is visible. Like you are the invisible creators, we are the visible creators. And to me, it's such a good. This is why I enjoy doing things with you and Patrick and everything, because it's so. Maybe because I have a scientific background, I can go more in depth with you in those things. Like I might not understand the language, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yep.
So to me, in those interactions with you guys is what. Maybe I get more involved than more clients. I don't know, but I like getting involved with you guys because I'm also learning, even though I will never code probably, but that type of vending machine or whatever. But I will always want to learn how it works, because the next time I come to you and the next time I come to ask a question, I understand also what the limitations might be, or if I can ask you to push those limitations or not.
Yep, fully agree. But yeah, you are really right on time with your request for the cute creatures, because you asked me about it exactly 1 week after I got the web developer on my team, which is has been a tremendous help. Like honestly, if you asked me 1 week earlier than you did, I'd have told you I cannot take this on, because I first of all don't have the capacity to build it on my own, and there are some areas of expertise that I'm lacking when it comes to web development and some web integration. So you asking literally 1 week after I basically settled the deal with this web developer to come on board is exactly the perfect moment that you could have gotten.
I am happy to hear that. So one last very important question. How many creatures are you gonna buy?
Oof. Complicated one. How many are you selling?
Oh no, you can't buy them all. I won't let you. Too much ADA. You can't spend that much.
No, I let you see exactly how many I can afford with all it cost you to build it.
Let's not tell people
you've given me that much. That means I can buy around.
I am ADA broke, so we're not going there. So yeah, and another key word you said, and I like to listen for those keywords, but another key word you said was capacity. And this is something all of us are dealing with right now. And I think people maybe listening to us that are not in the space might be dealing with it too, is the capacity to know one's own capacity. And that's not to say that you are not able or capable. It's just to say that you don't have the capacity to be capable and go on. We only have a certain number of hours a day. We only have a certain number of those hours that we are functional to work. Our brains, humans, as efficient as we used to be in today's world, we're not efficient at all, if you want the truth. Human brains are not made to function 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are made to function 8 hours, maybe some people can stretch it longer, up to 12, constantly every single day in a certain way, and then we need our rest, and then we need our sleep. So knowing one's capacity, you seem to know yours extremely well. I push mine, I know it, but I push it all the time and I get tired and I get sick. But this is the thing, I'm learning not to push it anymore, and I feel like others are learning not to push it anymore. How many artists have you seen that are pushing it maybe a bit too much?
There is one that definitely comes to my mind. I'm not gonna give the name
No,
now.
no naming.
But I know that person got completely burnt out and completely left the space for a few months, because I think they were just pushing the limits too much, and they got to a point where they had issues. I think possibly some form of health, mental issues, just because of the effort that they put into the space. So it's obviously about trying to strike a bit of balance as well.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I have moments when I'm pushing a bit too much myself as well. And that's exactly sometimes when I misjudge my capacity.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, at the end of the day, we are human. We will misjudge ourselves. We might misjudge other people too. It's just learning to using that misjudgment as a learning opportunity, and then going from there and telling yourself, okay, next time I won't do this. Because one thing I've realized is that with lack of sleep, there is to me especially, I'm not a doctor again, don't take my word for it, but my research into it is lack of sleep has done so many bad things to myself and others, from loss of attention, loss
Yep.
of memory, headaches, and this is just the beginning. Like it can go way further than that. But to me, this is how it affects me. I do find myself when I don't sleep well, over the next couple of days, I might start forgetting faster, or I might have a list of things to do and I think I can do it. And then I'm like, no. And it's this rolling ball that's just horrible. So my point is, me and you, we work very hard, and I think people that know us know that we work very hard. We both still have our 9 to 5, so we do this more on the side because we enjoy it so much. There's a huge fun aspect, and that's the addictive aspect I feel to it. So one thing I've struggled with sometimes is falling asleep, or no, falling asleep not, but telling myself to go to sleep. Are you feeling sometimes it's the same for you?
I am having these issues quite often. Although, as a personality, I was always the kind of person that wouldn't sacrifice on sleep. So, if I'm being honest, all-nighters were not really my thing at any point. Even during the university, like if I'd be in a point where I'm like, tomorrow I have that really hard exam, I don't really feel fully prepared for it. At 10 p.m., I still closed. I'm like, I'm going to sleep. I can't be bothered. Whatever happens, happens. Like, I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not doing an all-nighter. It's not my thing. I don't care enough about it to do an all-nighter. Also, I mean,
go ahead.
That's a bit wrong. Let's say that I don't care enough about it, because I do care a lot about many things that I do. The problem is that I also believe that my performance would actually be impacted, and the final product would be basically a trade-off between what I produce and the quality of what I produce. So I might believe that I'm doing better by staying later, but there are many instances where in reality you're basically the skill of what you're doing is just decreasing. You just end up doing a worse job, a more sloppy job. The moment you stay like this, you're more likely to make mistakes. So when you draw the line, you might realize that if you slept and then you properly worked the next day, you might have end up finishing in the same time without losing the sleep either.
Yes, I agree with you, and that's what I wanted to say. Like, there is one case I remember. I know I wasn't very prepared, and I agree. Like, even thinking about it now, I don't like it. But I had an exam, and I was prepared enough to pass. I know that much. But then I pulled an all-nighter anyway, and I think it was like the third all-nighter in that week because it was exam week and all of that. And then I got to the exam, and I kid you not, I completely blanked. Like even my name, maybe I didn't write. I remember just staring at the paper and going like, nothing's gonna come out. Like even if I knew the answer, there was no way my brain was gonna function for me to write it down and put it out there. Like I got to that point, and I remember the professor came and they were like, you know this. I'm like, I know this. It's just not coming out. And I completely broke down. I was like, I'm sorry. You want to let me have another chance? Great. If not, I'm just going to have to repeat the course. Here you go. And I walked out and I went to bed. because I mean, and that I think was the biggest learning moment for me to sleep. I was like, okay, from now on, I don't care what I know or what I don't know about that test. Maybe that chapter I didn't read will not show up. Maybe the whole exam will be that chapter. I really don't care anymore. I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, and talking about capacity in general, I think the problem sometimes is not misjudging on the capacity front, but when you decide to take on tasks which put you at the edge of your capacity, you don't end up leaving room for circumstances. And I think that's where I got burned many times myself, when I took something on that I knew I could deliver. But then when you got a personal circumstance that basically ends up taking your time, you're like, oh, I didn't actually count that time in. So now I'm completely screwed.
Yeah, and the buffer, that's another thing. I call it my buffer. Like I always try to keep a buffer somewhere. And I agree with you, especially because we have partners in our lives. especially when you have a partner, you really, really have to keep that buffer in, because when your partner says, sit your ass down, we're watching Netflix now, you best believe you're sitting your ass down and you're watching Netflix.
Yep, I can understand that.
And especially maybe for you soon, hopefully everything will go well. You are expecting you're going to be a new dad soon. So when that comes, the buffers are going to be very unexpected times of the day.
Oh yeah. I can't wait to be awake all night long.
One hand on the baby, one hand on the laptop. Go baby sleep and then finish. I can imagine that
You're
happening.
laughing, but that's already planned. There are some basically wraps that you put around you where you put the baby, like to get stuck on your chest. And I'm like, I'm putting it here and I'm coding. And
So I'm bonding with my baby. The baby's listening to my heartbeat. Let me finish my work.
well, you're laughing, but that's pretty much how it is.
Oh my God. Okay. When that happens, I'm expecting pictures from you for sure.
I'm sure we'll have a call or two, like in that situation.
Yes, please. Okay. I might just have a call with you just to see you do that. So thank you very much. I think this has been great. It went way longer than expected, which is always a good thing for me when it comes to those calls. I really enjoy it. Any last words before we end the call?
Oh, I think there's been many words said already.
Wise last words. Thank you very much. I'm just going to stop the recording now and then we will chat a little longer.
Thank you as well. Like, it's been great catching up with you.
Yeah.